It's day 10 of the war with Iran. The IDF says the Israeli Air Force has carried out new strikes inside Iran targeting Iranian Air Force headquarters, dealing a significant blow to Iran's military command structure. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz has the latest.
Israel says it's dealt a significant blow to Iran's military command structure during a new wave of airstrikes targeting key security and military facilities. The IDF says the Israeli Air Force destroyed the headquarters of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps in Tehran. The strike is part of a broader Israeli campaign targeting Iranian military infrastructure, including missile sites, command centers, and strategic facilities linked to the Revolutionary Guard. The IDF confirmed that a number of top Iranian military leaders were killed in the airstrikes. The IDF spokesman said the facility was used to direct missile and drone attacks against Israel and other countries in the region.
כעת ניתן לומר כי בתקיפה עוצמתית השמדנו את מטה חיל האוויר של משמרות המהפכה. מתוך המטה שהושמד, המשטר ניהל את ירי הטילים והכטב"מים לעבר עורף מדינת ישראל ומדינות האזור. בתמונה שמוצגת כעת על המסך ונחשפת לראשונה, מופיע אמיר עלי חאג'י זאדה, מפקד חיל האוויר לשעבר של משמרות המהפכה שחוסל במבצע עם כלבי. מהמטה בו הוא מצולם, הוא ניהל והוביל הוצאת מתווה טרור. תקפנו את המטה והשמדנו אותו.
Earlier, IDF airstrikes hit command centers used by Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the besieged paramilitary force in the city of Isfahan. The IDF says the operation was guided by military intelligence and also targeted a rocket engine production facility and missile launch sites. The strikes come as Israel expands its campaign against Iranian military and strategic targets, as well as targets directing internal oppression by the Iranian regime. With Iran's Air Force headquarters destroyed and top commanders eliminated, this strike sends a clear message. The Iranian military is being pummeled and degraded day by day and is facing defeat, if not surrender.
Ever since the death of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, in the first days of the war, there has been much speculation about who will succeed him. Now that speculation is over. Let's cross to our correspondent, Alec Pollard. Alec, after 37 years, Iran has chosen a new supreme leader. Is that correct?
Yes, Ivan. Iran's Assembly of Experts have named Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of slain Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, as Iran's next supreme leader. Iran's state media reported the decision on Sunday following days of speculation over who would succeed the longtime leader after he was killed in the opening stage of the U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran. Mojtaba Khamenei, a mid-ranking cleric, has long been seen by parts of Iran's ruling establishment as a possible successor to his father, despite the Islamic Republic's ideology historically rejecting hereditary succession. But Mojtaba enjoys strong support from the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps and the political establishment. The bigger question, though, is will he survive when both Israel and the U.S. have a target on his back? The IDF's Farsi account posted on X, "The hand of the State of Israel will continue to pursue every successor and every person who seeks to appoint a successor. We warn all those who intend to participate in the successor selection meeting that we will not hesitate to target you either." This is a warning. Before Mojtaba's election, President Trump warned, quote, "If he doesn't get approval from us, he's not going to last long. We want to make sure that we don't have to go back every 10 years. When you don't have a president like me, that's not going to do it." Now, as far as Mojtaba's chances of survival, Iranian media also reported that he has already been injured in this war, although we have no way of confirming that. In any case, he is unlikely to present any major departure from the ideology of his father, and thus the Islamic Republic under Mojtaba will probably present the same type of threat that it did before. And so he will not receive that approval of Trump that we mentioned earlier that is necessary to end this war.
Thank you, Alec. The IDF has now released for publication the name of the second IDF soldier who fell during combat in southern Lebanon. He was identified as Staff Sergeant Or Demri, age 20, from Liman. Or served as a soldier from the Combat Engineering Corps in the 91st Division. May his memory be a blessing. And in more news from the Lebanese front, Israel says it has dealt a major blow to the Iran-Hezbollah alliance, killing senior commanders in a precision strike in the heart of Beirut. ILTV's Devo Klein has the latest.
Israeli strikes in Beirut targeted Iran's IRGC Quds Force in the Dahiya district. Local reports show damage of multiple buildings, including command centers and military infrastructure. Fires were reported and some structures suffered partial collapse. No immediate casualty figures have been confirmed. The area is known as a strategic base for Iranian operations in Lebanon. The IDF says 5 top officials from Iran's Revolutionary Guard Quds Force and Hezbollah were eliminated in the targeted airstrikes on a hotel in the Lebanese capital. According to the military, those killed included key figures responsible for intelligence sharing, operational coordination, and terror financing between Iran and its proxy networks in Lebanon and the Palestinian arenas. Among them was a senior financial operative who the IDF says was responsible for transferring some $770 million from Iran to Hezbollah over the past year. Their elimination could have a long-term impact on the ability of Iran and Hezbollah to coordinate military operations. IDF Chief Eyal Zamir said Hezbollah will pay a heavy price for its continuing attacks on Israel as the war with Iran and its proxies continues. Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir made the comments during a situation assessment at the Homefront Command alongside senior air defense and civil defense officials. He warned that the conflict could take time, calling it a critical and fateful war that will shape Israel's security for years to come. And he urged Israelis to follow Homefront Command instructions as air defense forces, pilots, and ground troops continue operations along the border and in Lebanon.
It's day 10 of the war with Iran, and Iran continues its missile attacks on Israel with a new barrage launched today using a ballistic missile carrying a fragmentation warhead. According to Israeli authorities, the missile struck a construction site in central Israel around noon, killing 1 man and critically wounding 2 more at a construction site. Several additional people were injured at other impact sites in the region. Several apparent cluster bomb munitions struck central Israel during the attack. According to first responders, residents of the Sharon area say there was no early warning before the siren. According to authorities, at least 9 sites were hit by cluster munitions over several kilometers. Overnight, Iran fired additional missile barrages, triggering air raid sirens across large parts of the country. A woman was also injured in central Israel then by flying debris. Alerts were activated across northern, central, and southern areas, including the Sharon area, as Israel's air defense systems worked to intercept the incoming missiles. At the same time, Hezbollah fired rockets and drones from Lebanon toward northern Israel, setting off sirens in border communities, including the city of Kiryat Shmona. The IDF says there are no reports of direct hits or casualties from that attack. Meanwhile, the health ministry says more than 2,000 people have been hospitalized with war-related injuries since the conflict with Iran began in February 28th. 155 patients remain in intensive care, including 9 in serious condition. And joining me now to discuss the latest is Lieutenant Colonel in Reserve Jonathan Conricus, Senior Fellow at the FDD. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining. Jonathan, as someone with extensive experience in the IDF, how would you assess Israel's current situation in this war with Iran? What further goals need to get done and to progress in order to achieve the war goals?
Well, Shalom, thanks for having me. We're still early stages. I would say that we are making progress in the right direction across the board, whether it's striking senior officials, whether it is taking out Iran's ballistic missiles, whether it is the ability to strike all military targets in Iran and successfully defending ourselves against Iranian ballistic missiles and drones. Those things are progressing, and they're progressing well, but I think we should temper our expectations in terms of time frame and understand that we are dealing with a very big challenge. We're dealing with an enemy that has had a lot of time to really consolidate power, to generate military capabilities, and it will take time, patience, and a lot of firepower, lots of fuel, and many, most importantly, brave pilots to do what's necessary. But the good thing is we're working in the right direction, and when I take stock of the situation, what do the Iranians have at their disposal versus where they started? What do we have at our disposal versus where we started? And most importantly, how does the logistic strategic environment look like? The Iranian regime is weakened and left without strategic international support and with very limited logistics. And it's an opposite picture on the other side. Israel is strong, strengthened with solid logistics. And as long as we are fighting together with the US, then we have all the diplomatic support that we need.
And so you speak of time. More and more we're hearing this might be a longer war than initially anticipated. In your assessment, are we talking about several weeks, or could this last even longer?
It very much depends on how deep Israel wants to go, how much the U.S. will allow Israel to do so, and it depends on the overall achievement that Israel will want to see by the end of fighting or before fighting ends. If the objectives are more confined to tangible military things, as in destroy Iran's capacity to build ballistic missiles, obliterate their military industry, if it's only defined or limited to destroying their infrastructure that was part of building nuclear weapons, then we could be talking about a few weeks until it's verified in terms of BDA that those very tangible physical things have been achieved. However, if we're talking about expanding and if we're talking about bringing down the regime, then I think we have to broaden or lengthen the duration and take into account that when the military part of operations end, or the war end, then a diplomatic part will start, and there perhaps will be less shooting and less firing, but it will be equally important because the end goal is to help the Iranian people overthrow the regime. I believe that that is what Israel wants. Where it gets challenging is whether or not the U.S. will follow through, and whether or not the U.S. will be happy with, a 60, 70, 80% achievement of the goals without really bringing the regime to total collapse and allowing the Iranian people to reclaim their country. I believe we'll get to that fork in the road in a few weeks. I understand that, global media, people around the world and here in Israel, you got to talk about something, and the most very interesting thing is how long is it going to take, and when are we going to go back to normal lives. I think we have to be patient and understand that the dynamics that are now in play are long-term ones. It's going to take time for us to undo the Iranian regime. And I hope that Israel will have the military, logistic, diplomatic capacity and discipline to really stay the course here, and for once in 47 years, get rid of the biggest threat that we've had to our national security and in some cases our very existence.
So I want to touch upon that. There is a speculation that this might end without a complete regime fall, but rather maybe just a weakening of the regime. Would that be a great disappointment?
I think it would be unsatisfactory. I think it would be a wasted opportunity. I'm sure that tens of millions of Iranians would feel immensely betrayed by the US and by Israel and by all other parts of the world who are not so much participating and not as brave as we and the Americans are. But I think the Iranian people would feel hugely disappointed. And I think that for that scenario, what Israel is doing, understanding that that is a scenario that unfortunately is possible, what Israel wants to achieve militarily is to really narrow the scope and narrow the ability of whoever will govern in Iran after that, whether it is benign or an Iranian regime that is hostile as the one that we have now. Whoever governs Iran, we can at least make sure that for the foreseeable future, they will not have the means to execute any attacks against Israel, whether it's nuclear weapons, ballistic missiles, drones, or the ability to fund terror organizations. And that I think Israel can achieve. Hopefully Israel will be part of this coalition that will help the Iranian people reclaim their country, get rid of this horrible and oppressive regime, and really herald in a new age in the Middle East.
Jonathan Conricus, thank you very much for joining.
Thank you.
The first rescue flight from Dubai has landed at Ben Gurion Airport, bringing home about 330 Israelis who were stranded in the UAE since the start of the war. This, as Saudi Arabia has strongly condemned Iran, calling Tehran's missile and drone strikes against the kingdom and neighboring Gulf states reprehensible. More on this from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
The first rescue flight from Dubai landed this morning at Ben Gurion Airport, bringing home about 330 Israelis who'd been stranded in the UAE since the start of the war. The operation was coordinated by Israel's Transportation Ministry and Emirati authorities, prioritizing families, children, and the elderly, Additional flights are expected later today to return more citizens safely to Israel. Since February 28th, Iran has launched multiple missile and drone attacks targeting Dubai and the UAE, threatening civilian and commercial areas, disrupting air travel, and prompting emergency response measures, including evacuations and shelter-in-place orders. Most projectiles have been intercepted by UAE air defense, but the attacks have increased regional tensions and concerns over oil and shipping security. Saudi Arabia has strongly condemned Iran, calling the strikes against the kingdom and neighboring Gulf states reprehensible. However, the kingdom has not announced any direct military action against Iran. Meanwhile, the United States has ordered diplomatic personnel in Saudi Arabia to leave the country. This follows drone attacks near the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, which sparked a small fire and prompted security alerts. The embassy has since been closed, and Americans in several cities were told to shelter in place. According to reports, Iran has fired projectiles at Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE in recent days. In Kuwait, a drone strike hit a government building, igniting a large fire and killing 2 officers. At least 14 people have died in Iranian attacks across the Gulf since the war escalated, including civilians and foreign nationals. The conflict has also sent global oil prices surging, with the war in Iran continuing to threaten energy production, shipping, and regional stability across the Persian Gulf.
Across Israel, local community branches are often where national movements really come to life. At World Emunah, those branches are building connection, resilience, and leadership from the ground up. In Rehovot, that work is being led by Dr. Avital Beck, whose story reflects how Emunah's values meet everyday life.
For Dr. Avital Beck, chair of the Emunah Rehovot branch, Emunah is not an abstract idea. It's a living, breathing community that meets women where they are and walks with them through every stage of life.
All through the female Jewish life, we're there to give an answer, to give programs, to give support, and to give partnership and community.
In Rehovot, just like at all of Emunah's branches, that philosophy translates into weekly learnings, hand-on support, and programs that span generations. From bat mitzvah initiatives for young girls to leadership and career-focused programs for young women, to cultural and learning spaces for older members, this branch is designed to reflect the full diversity of women's lives.
We're trying to touch on very different aspects of many different women in different times of their life and times of need.
That sense of responsiveness became especially clear during the war. Just days before October 7th, the Rehovot branch had prepared a large second-hand fair. When families evacuated from the south arrived in the city with nothing, Emunah women turned preparation into immediate action, providing clothing, household items, and dignity in a moment of crisis. The branch also supported families of reserve soldiers, offering them meals for Shabbos, children's activities, and emotional support. Beyond emergency response, Emunah Rehovot has developed unique initiatives, including a dedicated Bet Midrash for women coping with mental health challenges, offering weekly learnings, meals, and a stable community framework. Beck brings a rare perspective to this work. A serial entrepreneur with a background in biotech, diagnostics, and AI-driven health innovation, she sees community as an essential counterpart to progress.
Only innovation and technology is not enough. We see this all the time. The people, especially in the AI age, the community is something that gives strength to people in order to evolve.
For women considering getting involved, Beck emphasizes belonging not just to a local community, but a global one.
You're part of something big, and then you feel that you're not alone. So I think it gives us a strength, a place of value, and a place to be a group that is proud of what we are.
Across Israel, Emunah's 16 active branches amplify national projects by translating values into action. In Rehovot, that action begins with community and grows outward.
With each day that passes, Israelis across the country are spending more and more time in bomb shelters, causing a spike in internet traffic by 25% since the start of the war with Iran. Some have capitalized on this unique circumstance and the need for people to stay connected and safe, creating shelter-related apps that connect and protect many. ILTV's Devo Klein walks us through some of these brilliant ideas.
The Islamic regime continues firing missiles at Israeli civilians at unpredictable times, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes in the middle of lunch. Despite the early warning from the Home Front Command of an imminent incoming barrage, many Israelis remain close to bomb shelters for fear of sirens catching them at the wrong time. Just 2 days ago, Mako released a report of the cities that suffered the most rocket attacks. The reports claim that citizens of Petah Tikva in central Israel have spent over 16 hours in bomb shelters across more than 65 sirens. So what do the people of the startup nation do during this time? Well, they are creating. 3 interesting apps emerged connecting and protecting people across the country. Innovative apps like the Bomb Shelter Locator has turned a potential crisis scenario into a map game, showing over 200,000 bomb shelter locations around the country. And for those who can't sprint to the shelter, the Purple Vest app helps the disabled seek help during alerts, with the volunteers using the app to locate and assist those who need help. And the Can I Shower app is currently breaking the internet, which shows users a risk percentage score for showering, giving people an idea of when it should be safe to use the shower peacefully and not worry about running to the shelter in nothing but a towel. And have you heard of the bomb shelter version of Tinder? Hooked connects users in the same bomb shelter looking for love, offering an icebreaker dating solution to the hours spent inside. Even U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee was amazed by this app. Even as missiles rain down from above, Israelis never stop creating, initiating, and bringing new inventions to the world and the country, who now, more than ever, crave connection and unity.
Due to security restrictions, the Western Wall in Jerusalem has been closed to worshippers. Officials at the holy site used the opportunity to remove thousands of prayer notes from the stones of the Western Wall as part of the traditional preparations for Passover. The operation was carried out this morning by the Western Wall Heritage Foundation, together with the rabbi of the Western Wall and holy sites, Rabbi Shmuel Rabinovitz. Officials say that alongside prayers for the peace of Israel and the safety of IDF soldiers, many messages this year came from people living in countries considered hostile to Israel. According to the foundation, notes were sent through its website by citizens in countries including Iran, Yemen, Iraq, Lebanon, Qatar, Pakistan, and Sudan, many of them praying for peace, reconciliation, and better relations between nations. During the ceremony, those gathered recited prayers for success in the struggle against Israel's enemies, primarily Iran, for the safety of IDF soldiers and security forces, and for the well-being of U.S. military personnel. The removal of the notes was carried out under strict religious guidelines and will now be placed in a special gniza, a storage place for Jewish religious texts and writings that are worn out and buried in Jerusalem. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Clear skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of 8 degrees Celsius or 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see sunny skies alongside steady temperatures, seeing highs of 19 degrees Celsius or 66 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channels and keep up with us on social media. That's at ILTV_Israel on all your platforms. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv. Be well, be safe, and thank you so much for watching.